Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian here with DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, and welcome to part 2 of my horror collection video. Initially, when I shot the video, I intended it to be just one really long video. And it was almost over an hour worth of footage, and I said, there's no way anyone wants to sit through all of that, so I decided to break it up into 3 separate videos. Hence, when the video starts, you'll see I just kind of keep going through my games. So either way, just wanted to give you guys that quick suggestion. I hope you guys are enjoying it. If you are, please make sure you hit subscribe, you comment below, and enjoy my horror collection. Now we're diving into the Sega Dreamcast, and I only have 2 games, but the first game is the whole reason why I got Dreamcast, Resident Evil Code Veronica. And you may be wondering, what's going on with this case? I have no idea what my original case is, but like many others, when I saw the commercials for Code Veronica, I was blown away. The graphics were amazing for the time. The game hasn't aged well, at least based on our latest review. Still, it's Resident Evil, so that sold many consoles for me. And then finally, Zombie Revenge, a game that I introduced Jim to and we did a review on a few years ago, actually. This is just pure arcade fun, and it looks great, sounds great. It has that 80s kind of feel to it, but it just controls so well. And the amount of weird weapons and monsters you fight, it's an awesome game. Can be fairly short, but definitely worth it if you just want a fun beat 'em up with your buddies. Alright, so next, let's talk about the GameCube. And once again, I'm at a situation where, because of a Resident Evil game, I bought the system. And I'm talking about none other than the Resident Evil 1 remake. I absolutely love this game. It is my favorite game. This and Director's Cut go hand in hand for me. It's obviously been remastered many times, but this game I actually got from EB for $18 back in the day. And when I first heard about it or read about it in Game Informer or whatever magazine I had, I knew right away I had to get it. So it was one of those, I just had to save up enough from wherever I was working. I asked my parents for it for a birthday or Christmas, and as soon as I could, this was the first game I got. There's not really much I can say. The game is, to me, perfect for a horror game. They took everything about the original Resident Evil, improved upon it, graphics, control, sound, and yeah, to me it's just a masterpiece. Next I have Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, which this one actually was my friend's, but he consolidated his collection a long time ago, knew I loved the game, and actually just gave it to me. Now I already do have this on the PlayStation, but it was one of those I'm never going to turn down a free horror game, so anyone out there who wants to get rid of something, you can send it my way. But what can I say? Really fun game. Some people kind of hate on it because it really started getting away from the horror, but to me it's still not as bad as Resident Evil 4 in that regard. And finally, we have Godzilla Destroy All Monsters. So, I think I actually got this after I saw the Nerd episode when he was reviewing all the Godzilla games. And he mentioned this game, and right away I said, well, I need to go out and find it. I gotta be honest, this is such a fun multi-monster, player versus player game, especially if you have some buddies with you. Has a ton of characters from the Godzilla franchise. It just plays well. You have so much destruction. Jim and I played it, and yeah, this is a game that I wish they would do more of. I know there was that Godzilla game for the PS4, but I want more silly, goofy, big monster action like this. So, ton of fun. Check it out. Alright, and moving on to the real meat and potatoes of my collection, I'm going with the PlayStation 1, and I gotta start it off with Resident Evil Director's Cut, the game that changed my life in general. I mean, it combined my love of horror, zombies, and it's a style I never knew up until that point. Before this, I really only knew Castlevania as a big horror game. This, I just stayed up all night playing the first time I rented it, and then immediately I needed to get it. So I never actually played the original before playing the Director's Cut, so I didn't have the experience of how terrible the aiming was. I kind of got the easier version right off the bat. Still, it's an amazing game, and the nice thing about this Director's Cut is it came with the Resident Evil 2 demo, which as soon as I was done the first Resident Evil, I can't tell you how many times I played that, and I would just live to see that Kendo gunshot moment. And my mind was so filled with what the rest of Resident Evil 2 would be like, so it really got me hyped. A true masterpiece, you gotta try it out. Now, of course, let's talk about Resident Evil 2. Another masterpiece. I'm going to keep reusing that word, but I was so blown away by how much bigger the world felt. I felt like the graphics were such an improvement, and the fact that there was an A and B game for Leon and Claire just blew my mind. So it just increased the replayability out the wazoo. Has some of the best music from the entire series, and it's debatably a better game than the first one. Either way, if you've never played the original, you really got to give it a try. And to close out the trilogy, I got to talk about Resident Evil 3. I already mentioned I have it on the Gamecube, but I never played it on that. I only played it on the PlayStation when it first came out, and unfortunately I'm missing my cover, which really pisses me off. But this is another one. Just the fact that you start the game and there's so many zombies and you're using an assault rifle, that blew me away. And Nemesis, I don't care what anyone says, to me he is the best boss from all the Resident Evil games. The game holds up really well even today, and I'm not sure why it doesn't get more love, but still, it's a great addition to the series. Alright, moving on, we have Dino Crisis, one of many Resident Evil clones, but this one had the brilliant idea of doing dinosaurs. And I'll be honest, as soon as I found any game I could that was a Resident Evil clone, I hopped right on it. This one was just one that made sense to me. I was also a huge Jurassic Park fan when I was a kid, so this combined both of them. It's not as good as Resident Evil, but it's still a worthy title, especially if you're looking for some PS1 horror games. Next, I have Area 51. Now, what can I say about this game? Most of the time when you have rail shooters like this, it never works on a console, but yet somehow this game did. I really loved it. I don't even know if I actually played the arcade, but man oh man was this always a fun one, and it would be one like my friends would be like, I suck at it, I can't play it, but I memorized where everything was going to be, where the power-ups are, where the health is, so it's one I haven't played in easily probably 20 years. I really need to give it another try. I love the hell out of this game. Alright, next we have Shadow Man. Now this is another one I got from Goodwill, and I gotta be honest, I played it a little bit as a kid. I wasn't that impressed. What I'm looking at now is, I have to imagine the idea for Riddick kind of came from this guy. But if you've never played this game, you basically go in between the spirit world and regular world fighting criminals and crazy monsters. You have some cool abilities. There are a lot of games that kind of do this style now, like The Suffering and a few others. I forget the names off the top of my head. But it was an interesting idea, just not the best executed. Still, interesting game. Alright, and up next we have Nightmare Creatures. Ooh, what can I say? This game, right from the cover and everything that was advertised, I was like, wow, a whole world of monsters, werewolves, zombies. I was completely in, and I completely sucked at it. I know I never beat it as a kid. I might have beaten it later in my teen years, but this was a game that I was just like, it's so damn brutal. It probably could have just been that I sucked, but still, I mean, I just loved the guy with the staff and the ability to use guns and the chick with the sword. There was a lot I really did enjoy about this game, but I remember the control and the cameras really bugging me. So this is one I might have to give another look at. Oh man, speaking of games that annoyed the hell out of me, but not truly horror, but kind of horror, I'm including it anyway. We got Spawn the Eternal. I had every Spawn toy, Spawn comic. I was completely obsessed. So anytime there was a Spawn video game, I had it. Unfortunately, I still don't have my Super NES game. But this, man, did I think this was a great game back in the day. The ability to rip off people's limbs and beat them with it, that's like really all I needed to be sold. This is one of those games I spent way too much time, and I know I beat a few times. But I went back and tried to play a few years ago. I absolutely suck at it, and the game did not age well at all. Still, if you're a Spawn fan, then yeah, let's just hope you can get it cheap. Alright, so now is a really obscure title for me. It's Dungeons and Dragons Iron and Blood. It's a 3D fighting game apparently. This I got from one of my ex's dads who just had a bunch of random games. This was the only horror-ish title he had. So I never actually got around to playing it. I'm going to give it a try, but as we all know, unless you were Tekken or Soul Edge or Virtua Fighter, most 3D fighting games did not translate very well. And by the looks of this, I'm going to doubt this one's that good. Alright, so now, one of my bigger prized possessions, a long box XCOM UFO defense game. I just love the long box games from PlayStation, and I'm actually currently trying to find as many as I can for some of these horror games. But XCOM UFO defense, I played it more on the PC when I was younger. It's another one I really sucked at, and it was very ambitious for the time. It didn't translate the best for a console game. Future XCOM games are much better, but this is just a very interesting take on the typical UFO invading the world. It was so simulation-y, and you had to really think ahead, so I really liked that. And my final game for PlayStation, and speaking of aliens, the one and only Alien Trilogy. Now, we actually just got requested from our Patreon to do a review on this, and I am so excited because Jim's never played it. I truly, truly love this game. I am saying I love it with nostalgia. I haven't played it for many, many years. I hope it's a game that held up well, but back in the day, oh man, I was absolutely obsessed, and I cannot wait to give this a full review. Alright, so let's move on to the PS2, and the first game up is actually going to be Alien vs. Predator Extinction. This is one of the rare games where an RTS was very successfully ported for a console. I don't actually know if this came on the PC, but I love Alien vs. Predator, and in this particular game, you can play as aliens, the Marines, or the Predators, go through completely individualized campaigns, and it's just all out like madness. I remember going down the shore and wanting to stay in and just play this game the summer I got it. I loved it that much. The next game we have is Dark Watch. Now, this is a game I got about 2 or 3 years ago, and I gotta be honest, I really enjoyed it. I just, for whatever reason, haven't had a chance to beat it. You play as a Van Helsing-ish half vampire who's hunting down a bunch of monsters. You have a whole bunch of really cool weapons, and yeah, this is just another game I can't wait to actually sit down and beat all the way through. Next, we have Hunter the Reckoning, the Wayward. Now, I've never played the Hunter the Reckoning games before I got this, and if I remember correctly, I kind of got this on a whim. It was a long, long time ago. I had never really played a game like this until I tried this one out. I mean, I don't even know really what you call it, if it's a shoot 'em up, a hack and slash, but it's team-based. They all have unique powers. You're going against a ton of different monsters. It's very much like Dark Watch in the whole way it's played out, except it's just played in this like overview team-based way. I'm doing a terrible job explaining it, but I always love the differences between all the characters, and it's a game that, introduced me to a style that I ended up liking later on. Oh man. Up next, we have Manhunt. Now, this is a game that I actually mentioned on one of our podcasts where my mom actually got really upset because I left the cover in the bathroom, and what it describes between how to properly kill someone with a plastic bag and stab them in the eye with a shard of glass. The game is over-the-top brutal. It got banned in a lot of countries. There was a ton of controversy. It's still one of the craziest games I've played, and like I said, even though you're being hunted, you are just one brutal son of a bitch. So, yeah, really, it's a good game, but it's disturbing. And next we have Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights. So, this was another Goodwill pickup, and I'll be honest, I've never actually played any Scooby-Doo game. I love the series. I can distinctly remember in 7th and 8th grade, I'd wake up early, eat my cereal, and be watching old school Scooby-Doo. Me and my son actually watch them now, so I love the series. I just never got around to playing a game, so I'm going to give this one a try, as well as a few other Scooby-Doo games. But yeah, can't resist these when I see them in Goodwill. Alright, next we have Resident Evil Outbreak. When I heard about this game, I got really excited because it was like a completely different take. You're no longer just like the hotshot cop or ex-Stars member. In some of these cases, you're regular people, and you're seeing what they're dealing with the outbreaks going on throughout Raccoon City. The concept is amazing. The execution leaves a lot to be desired, as some of the characters are damn near unplayable, but still, it is a very ambitious game, and you could have 4-player online back in the day. Not that anyone really did it, but the fact that they offered it, they were thinking ahead. So, yeah, this was a very ambitious title. Might not have been great, but it still has some interesting concepts behind it. And my final game is Resident Evil 4. You guys didn't really think I was going to go this many systems and not have this game, did you? Like everyone else, I was completely suckered in with all the Resident Evil games by this point. And this game came out, and I gotta be honest, I did really enjoy it, but I did kind of feel like, uh-oh, Resident Evil is going to get away from horror, and it's going to go down this action path. Unfortunately, I was correct with the next, I don't even know how many titles until it got back to 7, but still, this is an excellent game. Whether it's horror or not, there are plenty of horror elements. It's a must-play, one of the best horror games out there, and undeniably a ton of content in this game. So this, just like the original Resident Evil, revolutionized horror games and gaming in general, because now all of a sudden the over-the-shoulder angle in like action games started trying to copy this. So Resident Evil just always finds a way to be a trendsetter. Alright, so now let's dive into my collection for the original Xbox, and I'm going to start off with one of my favorite horror games, The Thing. This is a game that does not get enough love, and I can't stress that enough. Number one, and this is not debatable, the movie The Thing from the 80s is undoubtedly the best sci-fi movie and the best special effects from the 80s. Everything about that movie is amazing, and this game did an amazing job kind of expanding upon the story and just the mechanics of who's infected, who's not, the creature, and the boss battles. I really, really love this game, and a lot of games from this era did not age very well, but this is one I still love. It's highly, highly recommend it, so if you've never played it, you need to go out and get it right away. Alright, next we have Destroy All Humans, and I just recently completed a stream where I beat the game. I did play the HD remake that's available on Xbox Game Pass, but this is the game that started it all. And as you can see from that little sticker, this is another $3 Goodwill pickup. It has a ton of character to it. There's a ton of humor in there, and it's probably the best game where you actually play as the invading alien with a ton of different powers, the ability to use your UFO to completely just blow up tons of cities, and some really crazy weapons. So this game is a fun time, but it can get a little bit repetitive. Alright, next we have a more family-friendly game with Grab by the Ghoulies. Taking place in a mansion, this is just a silly, goofy game that you could honestly play with your kids. There's not a lot I have to say about it. I never actually beat it, but it's another $3 Goodwill find that I said, oh, what the hell, let me just try it out. And it is fun, but it's not one that really is going to grab you and make you go, ooh, this is an amazing game. It's just a fun co-op game. Next we have Gauntlet Dark Legacy, and I'll be honest, this is really stretching whether it's a horror game. I really don't think it is. It's more of a Dungeons and Dragons kind of combo of like fantasy. I just had to throw it in here because really when else am I going to talk about it? I have to mention, in fact, it's another $3 game, so had to show it on here. Didn't really play much of it, but there's some scary elements. Alright, I'm just stretching it. Next, we have Doom 3 Resurrection. Now, I already mentioned that I had Doom 3 for the PC, and this is actually yet another $3 game I got from Goodwill, and I've never actually turned it on. I got this semi-recently, and it was like, oh, okay. I didn't even realize there was that much DLC for Doom 3. But this is just like another chapter in that whole Doom 3 game, so it looks pretty cool. One of these days I'll get around to actually playing it. Next we have Blood Omen 2, and once again, kind of like Simon's Quest, trying to show it, I have 2 copies on the Xbox. One of these was definitely from Goodwill. I'll be honest, I don't know where I got the other one from. This is before I started keeping track of all my games, so now I don't make this mistake again. But as I mentioned earlier, this is an amazing game. And this is the console I actually played it on, along with the PS2 back in the day. Ever since I've had it for the Xbox, I've played it a few times. The PC version, as I mentioned, I've never really played, but it's a great game. I mentioned it earlier already, so I'm not going to talk too much. But maybe if somebody out there wants a trade, I got an extra copy here. Alright, and then finishing off my Xbox collection is Blade 2. Now, when I was younger, me and my best friend Juan used to play this game so much. We loved all the Blade movies, although Blade 3 was questionable. But we love those movies so much. And we don't know what happened to Blade 1, but Blade 2 got its own movie. And to this day, this has one of the best 360-degree fighting mechanics I've seen in any game. Using your analog sticks, it's so seamless to go from your guns to your sword. I just absolutely love it. It's clearly the best Blade game, and I'm saying that without knowing if there are any other Blade games. So if you ever wanted to play as Blade, this is the one to do it. And I highly recommend it for either Xbox or PS2. Not sure if it's available for anything else, but check it out.